Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, khushamdi, ji ayanu khuyamorcha, pakhair ragale, washmale, junushume, and bonjour, so many other words. Welcome to Well This Morning with Shiza Hashmi on such a beautiful morning, ladies and gentlemen. Wake and bake, rise and shine. I hope you're having a very healthy breakfast because healthy breakfast leads to healthy mind, and automatically it will also lead you to making right and healthy decisions throughout the day. So I really hope you do that. We are not giving out weather updates because you just heard them in our news bulletin 5 minutes ago. So we will definitely be just very quickly moving on to what we are talking about today. Well, Pakistanis happen to be a very, vibrant and such a vast nation. They are spread all over the globe, and Pakistanis happen to make the sixth largest diaspora in the world. And, well, let's talk about Canada alone. More than 200,000 Pakistanis are already living in Canada. And it's now time that a lot of expats, not only from Canada, but also from other places, are willing to come back to Pakistan or at least contribute to the economy of the country in whatever capacity they want to or they can. And well, thanks to the incumbent government of Pakistan, Tehreek Insaf as well, we are focusing on, making opportunities and making a conducive environment for investments to come in our country from abroad, of course, to make the economy better. And this is what we are talking about, especially in the IT sector, because this was 2 years ago. I was reading an article, and it said by 2020, Pakistan's IT industry is going to double. It's going to boom. Did that happen? Is it going to happen in the near future? Is the government working towards that? Is what we will be discussing today. And for this specific purpose, we have been joined by some amazing people who are actually experts in this specific field, and they will be telling us where we're headed, where we are now, and what expats can do to improve this situation. So without further ado, let me introduce them to you. On my right-hand side, I've been joined by someone who is representing, let's say, the Pakistani IT industry in the present case scenario, and he is also on the task force, the IT task force of Imran Khan. He happens to be Mir Nasir, the CEO of Inbox Technologies. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next to Mir Nasir, we have someone who happens to be a Pakistani but has been living in Canada for many years, is now come back and wants to contribute to Pakistan, and is also going to sort of represent that side of the world as well, and the Pakistanis living over there and the Canadians as well, and if they are willing to contribute or invest in Pakistan. He is none other than Zishan Ali, the Vice President of Salesforce.com. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Alaikum, and it's a great pleasure to be on your show today.
It's absolutely our pleasure. So begin with, Mr. Mir Nasir, you happen to be in the task force, so I think you're the right person to start this conversation with. Where are we standing right now, and why did we need a task force specifically for IT exports?
So where we're standing right now is, I think, on the verge of taking off as far as domestic and export IT industry is concerned.
That's good, right?
That's very good, and that's very needed as well as far as our overall economy and our overall position in the global standing is concerned.
Right.
Task force, of course, just like every other task force, is a collection of focused minds primarily for policy making. And it brings in experts from all the different fields. I think it's a good idea. It augments the current government, the current ministries to help them in their job. And it has a very clear-cut mandate that we want to take our domestic and IT exports industry to a certain level by a certain time. So I think it's a great initiative by the government, and I'm quite hopeful that it'll bear the results that we're looking to.
Right, of course, that's absolutely brilliant. But how are you planning on incorporating the expats or the Pakistani diaspora all over the world?
So one of our biggest assets, especially in the tech field, is the Pakistani diaspora. People like Zishan and others who work in the tech sector around the world, and are willing to and are looking to give back to the country.
Right.
So when you talk about IT exports, there's a lot of talent here which could actually be doing export-oriented work for companies like Salesforce abroad and others, and with people like Zishan sitting in Canada and others, we have that access to that market. Now, access to that market is very, very important. Sitting in Pakistan, trying to remotely reach out to people is a little difficult, but when we have our own people over there, it makes it much easier for us to tap into those markets. And I think with the current environment, I see, as a Pakistani and part of the domestic industry, I see a lot of interest coming in from our diaspora abroad to come in and do something.
Right, and which is great to look at, of course. But Mr. Zishan, now you have to speak on behalf of all the people out there, and you yourself as well. You're experienced in the IT industry, and you want to sort of, make this industry better for Pakistan, learning from whatever mistakes you've made or whatever things that you've learned for good. But do you think this is going to sustain in Pakistan? Is the environment really conducive that now you're willing to, invest here?
So let me give you 2-minute backdrop on this before I address your question.
Yeah, please.
So while I work for Salesforce.com, I'm representing a delegation by the Canada-Pakistan Business Council, which represents the Pakistani diaspora in Canada. And we're here in Islamabad to attend the Leaders in Islamabad Business Summit.
Okay.
And about 2 weeks ago, when the social, economic, and the geopolitical situations here were quite interesting. So there was a lot of discussion of maybe not making this trip. We have 16 people who came in this delegation, and a lot of them are from Pakistan, and we made a very, very conscious decision that this is the time to demonstrate to everybody in the world that Pakistan is not a place we need to shy away from. Now, to answer your direct question, these days, I'll speak for myself.
Right.
I am drinking the Imran Khan Kool-Aid. And there are lots of people like me who are extremely excited to get involved and pay back to the community that we were raised in or we grew up in. So out of the 16 people here in the delegation, about 12 are represented by medium to large size technology companies which are doing a turnover of $30 to $40 million.
Wow.
Which is phenomenal. And they all came here and they are looking for opportunities to invest and potentially move their back offices into Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, and other areas.
Right.
So yes, the diaspora is extremely, extremely interested in getting involved in the IT sector in Pakistan.
Right. So when you talk about investments, this is not only about IT, but anywhere, of course, you need a security of where your capital is going and what you will, reap off of whatever is going on, the results. What do you feel about that?
See, this is early days of the government, again, in my view. But the perception is changing. Earlier, the investors would shy away from Pakistan because there's a country risk, there's a currency risk, and the political situations are unstable. So investments are starting to trickle in, but they will be at a slow pace right now. I think the focus, especially from an IT perspective, should be how can we increase the exports. Pakistan officially, I think, does about 800,000 to $1 million of exports of technology, IT related.
800 million.
800 million?
Officially,
So it's the low-hanging fruit is how we can double or triple that. And so if we're exporting a lot more, it increases our foreign reserves. And once we start delivering on these projects well, I think the confidence level goes high for a lot of other organizations to come and invest in Pakistan.
Right. Okay, so fine. Let's talk about Pakistani IT exports. Because the industry needs to be tapped upon, of course, there happens to be a lot of potential in terms of millions and billions of dollars, only if we do start to focus on this. So where are we lacking, sir? Do you feel like it is the resources? Do you feel like it is the platform that we might not be providing? Because I personally happen to know a lot of people who graduated studying IT. Let's say, first of all, they were probably not given the right practical knowledge that they might have gained from other institutions. So first of all, let's start with universities. They need to incorporate things in their curriculum where they can produce better people who can, of course, then contribute to the IT exports industry. So address that first. Do we need to improve our curriculums in the universities?
Absolutely. So one of the major topics of discussion under the task force is the academia side.
Yeah.
You see, what has happened is we and a lot of other emerging economies actually got left behind or were slow in adapting to the digital skills that are required in the world today. So our curriculums did not adapt that quickly. Right? And I think we've kind of caught in that little conundrum where we have not upgraded our curriculum. So, so academia, yes, very, very important. If you don't have the input, there's no output to give to anybody, right? But having said that, it's not a problem that cannot be solved.
Yeah, of course.
I think it requires a focus from the government, of course, because majority of the organizations or the institutions fall under the government. A majority of the input that comes in is from the government universities or colleges. But there is a way to shortcut it, and that's one of the things we were discussing, that we need to create digital academies. Right, where today gone are the days where any organization like mine or Zishan's is going to wait for 3 years for a product to come out of college before they can put him to task. We need people, we need products that go into digital academies and come out in 2 months, 6 months, 3 months with very specialized training. Whether it's data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, you put them through a boot camp, they come out and they are productive and we can build them. Exports is all about billable dollars, right? Billable man hours. And the quicker we make them billable, the quicker we can expand our exports. So academia is a huge part of this puzzle.
Right.
And again, this is one of the major areas of policy making that we are focusing
Yeah.
on is building that skill set. And I think we're on that track, but of course, a lot of when we talk about training them in boot camps, then we look to our friends in the international community
Right.
to actually provide us the framework or the guidelines or even the trainers to come in and actually run boot camps for 6 months, 8 months, and train thousands of people to come in. Because of course,
Right.
at the end of the day, the people that come out of those academia or those digital academies are going to be consumed by such people, right? So they're the best to guide us into what they need.
Right, and should I tell you something, that it's not that we are lacking in terms of our youth and their potential, because a lot of people who have studied IT or any of along those lines, they are freelancers right now. And should I tell you, Pakistani freelancers are actually the third and fifth largest workforce on two of the topmost freelancing websites. So we do have a lot of people who know this stuff. They're working for other people outside. So you just sort of need to direct them, as you rightly mentioned, that we need digital labs and sort of technology parks as well eventually. You just need to direct them to the right place, because their country needs them first, like any other country does. Also, they're working on 30 to 50% less wages as compared to our neighbors, or as compared to people or freelancers from other countries. How should we make use of that?
Yeah, so just one thing I want to add before I answer that question is, so the official, and if you add the freelancing community's revenue that they generate, which does not really get reported in the state bank's remittance code, but of course there's foreign exchange coming in. So officially, unofficially, all our exports together is about $2 billion.
Yeah.
How should we make use of that? I think the labor arbitrage that you mentioned, that we are cheaper, that will remain, and that's one of our key advantages.
Okay.
Because if you look at our currency, if you look at our the cost of living, we're still very competitive compared to our neighbors or even the other emerging economies, which is very important for us.
Of course.
And I think that's something that we should not lose that as far as that advantage is concerned. But what we need to do is channelize this freelancing community, channelize them in the way that they are incentivized to report it in the right remittance codes. We're already working on that to give them rebates, so that our statistics of our exports go up to 2 billion, 3 billion, whatever the total is today. And we actually formalize this freelancing community and help them grow even further abroad, by recognizing them as an industry. You see, one of the biggest challenges that IT faces in Pakistan even today, you have a textile industry and you have a fertilizer industry. But when you talk about IT, it's still very informal as an industry status.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
And that's one of the things that was discussed first in the task force with the ministers. Is, we got to give IT as an industry focus. So we have industrial associations, but when you compare us to the traditional industrial associations, we're not there yet. And
but that is the future, right?
Absolutely.
We should definitely, right now, hop onto it, because otherwise we will be lacking behind.
I think the government understands that.
Yeah, of course.
And the government is definitely, I know the Prime Minister himself has mentioned it several times, that digital or technology or IT is the pivot for a country to go to. And if you look at our traditional industries, right, you can expand them all you want, and you should from an export perspective. But if you look at velocity and scale, there is no other industry apart from IT industry that can scale and grow that quickly.
Right.
Because I don't need to put up a manufacturing plant that is going to give me an output in 2 years. I can have the conducive environment right now if the policies are there.
Right.
I can grow my exports within a year from 0 to 100, right? And that does not happen in any other industry.
You're right. But Mr. Zishan, do you feel like Pakistan is ready for the technological change that you want to bring here?
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more with Nasser. Any other industry, you have to be extremely capital intensive. You have to pour in a lot of money to set up a plant, and by the time the plant starts yielding something, it's a couple of years.
Right.
In the IT industry, you put together a solution, you put together a bench, they start getting billable, and you can actually see results in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And to your earlier point, Nasser, when you talked about making changes in curriculum in academia, that is definitely a solution, but that is a long-term solution.
Okay, yes.
Because the time you take to change the curriculum, you implement it, start teaching new technologies, because IT changes at a very rapid pace. So in my opinion, it's very difficult for the institutions to keep us abreast on the latest technological advances.
Right.
I think it has to be a partnership with the private sector, and like you're saying, we should come up with academies or workshops or boot camps, whatever you want to call them, and you take the individuals who have 2, 3, 4, 5 years of development experience and upgrade their skill set and get them ready to participate in the global IT market on the latest technologies.
I totally do agree with that. That is an idea. But since we are talking about, advancement in technologies, there was this, a few days ago, I was reading a news on how eventually AI is going to sort of come into, news reading as well. And then we are looking at probably anchors or news readers who are not humans. First of all, are we ready to welcome artificial intelligence in Pakistan? There are two questions. And the other is this going to eat up human jobs? I mean, are we going to lay people off and then just make it all about AI? Any one of you, please.
Should I go first?
Absolutely.
Right, okay. So yeah, in fact, there's a company within the country that has experimented on creating a artificial intelligence bot for report writing.
Wow.
So it can look at a particular topic, and using its algorithms in AI and machine learning, it could churn out a report within minutes, which would normally take a human maybe a day or so to do. Any idea whose time has come, you cannot stop it.
Okay.
Right? So even if we want to argue the fact that no, this
is
is
it a
going to
threat
make people,
though?
I mean, everything can be looked at as a threat as well, right? Even technology or digital enhancements or the whole idea of digital liberalization can be looked at as a threat.
Right.
You can look at the glass half full or half empty. I like to look at it as half full.
Okay.
Because artificial intelligence, what's going to happen is what it's going to do. It's not going to, in my opinion, it's not going to make jobs redundant. I think what it's going to do is going to make, or it's going to give people who are doing redundant jobs a lot more time to do value-added jobs. Right. So I can give you an example that we were automating a particular organization in the public sector, and it was a very large organization. And one of the things was one of the outcomes that came out of it is a lot of the lower staff cadre that was actually doing paperwork. That took them traditionally about 2 hours to do that paperwork. They got done in 20 minutes after automation, and that 1.5 hours that they had extra, their bosses actually put them to task on other stuff, which was more meaningful for the organization. Right? So it actually helped the organization in the end. And then I think artificial intelligence depends how you utilize it. Some areas do need it. I mean, manufacturing would need it. Other research would need it. I mean, at the end of the day, you could look at it as an extended arm to you rather than a threat. Yeah,
okay, that's an approach. I absolutely love it. What about you, sir?
So I think the only constant is change, and that applies absolutely 100% to technology. It applies to most things, but to technology it applies 100%. And like Nasser said, there is no way we can avoid AI, and I think we should, this is one of the areas we have an advantage. Jaise pehle BPO or contact center solutions in Pakistani companies jati thi, that market is flooded right now.
Right.
AI is, I think we can get ahead of the curve, and if we build a workforce and train a whole bunch of young individuals on this, I think that's where the next boom is going to be in technology.
Right, okay.
As far as is it a threat and will it destroy jobs? I mean, when the cars started coming out and mass production of cars happened, there was a thriving industry of horse and buggies.
Right.
Now the horse and buggy industry is
no
destroyed.
one talks about them anymore.
Absolutely, but a new industry spawned, and you have hundreds of thousands of people employed by automotive industry.
Right.
It's the same thing. I don't think it'll destroy jobs. It'll just change jobs. People who were doing programming in COBOL, for example, are now focusing on cloud technologies.
Right.
So it's not really a negative. I think it overall is better for the country.
Right.
And the
you know,
economy.
I do sort of agree with you. So there's this, since we are talking about robots, there's an cafe in Multan, and an engineering graduate sort of, built a robot, and that robot waiters in the restaurant now, he brings food to the people. It's interesting to look at. But also, there was another news. This was, I think, from Tokyo. I am not really sure, but I feel like I'm right. So there was this AI-based robot that they made. It said, the headline said, this is almost humanly impossible to be so much like humans. And eventually, this was probably 2 or 3 months down the lane. There were, interviews being conducted by people for the robot that was made. And eventually, a few months down the lane, they found out that it wasn't a robot. It was actually a human posing as a robot. The company actually just wanted to become popular. So on this note, ladies and gentlemen, we're heading out to a short break. When we come back, we will definitely continue the discussion on how we can improve the IT exports of Pakistan. Stay tuned. Good morning.
Sarangi is a bowed, short-necked string instrument from subcontinent, which is used in Pakistani classical music. Its flexible tunability and its ability to produce a large play of tonal color and emotional nuance makes it unique. Carved from a single block of wood, the sarangi has a box-like shape with 3 hollow chambers called stomach, chest and brain. It's usually around 2 feet long and around 6 inches wide. It has 3 melody strings and 11 to 37 sympathetically vibrating metal strings.
Welcome back to Well This Morning with Shiza Hashmi, ladies and gentlemen. We're having an absolutely informative morning over here because we are talking about Pakistan's IT exports. But before we dig into that deeper, I need to ask Mr. Zishan over here. Now, representing that community over there in Canada and where in the world as well, what policies do you expect from the present government or their task force to produce so you guys can have a conducive environment?
So we were talking about policy making, and I know
Right.
there are 2-3 task forces that Nasser is one of them as well. As far as the Canada-Pakistan Business Council is concerned, Samir Dosal set up meetings with, the Federal Minister of IT, and we had conversation with the Commerce Minister and
Right.
Zulfi Bukhari. So we'll wait and see what the policies come out. The only one thing I'd ask for is the government should consider hiring a PR firm to start working on the image of Pakistan, because the one thing all large or medium-sized companies talk about is why should we go to Pakistan? So we need a PR campaign. But I'll defer to Nasser to talk a little bit about policy.
Yeah, like how would you cater to their demands?
So, based on my interaction, I think a couple of things that need to go right. First of all is There has to be, for people to come in and invest and create offshore development centers, there has to be the right ease of doing business policy.
Right.
It has to be the right taxation policy. There has to be IP protection laws. There has to be bankruptcy laws. There has to be capital which is allowed to go out in terms of repatriation of dividends. But I think, and there's a whole selection of those which of course this is not rocket science. A lot of our emerging economies have already done this
Of course,
and
yeah.
seen the benefits out of it. So there's no rocket science. You can actually replicate those and do it. But I think consistency of those policies is very important. If we create those policies, they have to be locked in for like 20, 30 years and cannot
Right,
be
of course.
changed.
I mean, we can't compromise on the fact that even after 5 years, if the government sort of,
Yeah,
goes off.
nobody else should be able to come in and change a new
Right.
policy on whims and all. This is not going to work, number one. Number two, public-private partnerships.
Of course.
One of the things that they have to come in is they have to not encourage government-to-government interaction. It does not help build the local industry.
Okay.
If you want to
okay.
build the local industry, then the local industry has to be the ones that are doing most of the work in the country. Otherwise, they will never get to a scale where they can export.
Okay.
Number three, you have to involve our industrial giants. I keep saying this on multiple platforms. The biggest tech giants around the neighborhood, if you look at it, but they're industrial giants. Today, they are their tech giants. You got to get our industrial giants on the table, and you got to tell them, the Prime Minister has to tell them that, listen, I need my IT exports to hit 10 billion. You need to do it. You tell me what you need from me to help you. And I guarantee you that there is enough appetite and enough willingness in our existing industrial giants to invest in tech.
Right.
And that's part of the policies that have to happen.
If I may, I'll just add to that.
Yeah,
So I
please,
agree
very
with most
quickly.
of these points, but one of the, at least on paper, it seems to be an easy thing to do is if we open up and allow our industrial giants to take money out and buy out an IT organization in Canada and America, and then they can always
Bring it back to the
they
country.
bring the back office back. But we can't, in Pakistan, what I understand is you cannot take large amounts of money out, and there's a restriction around that.
Yeah.
It's a very, very important point, and we've discussed this on a task force, that
Okay.
listen, of course, put all the checks and balances in place, but allow them to go buy companies. I can guarantee you that if you give the option to the industrial giants today
Yeah.
to listen, they can go buy at least 50 companies abroad.
Right,
And you're
right.
talking about immediately if they move the back offices or the development centers from XYZ countries back to Pakistan, you're talking about thousands and thousands of jobs created within
Right.
12 months.
Right, imagine that. Thank you
and
so much
imagine
for
that.
thank you so much for these impressive points that you guys put forward. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so sorry we're short on time. Mr. Zishan Ali, the VP, Salesforce.com, Meenas's CEO, Inbox Technologies. Thank you for joining us. So,
Thank you
ladies and
for having
gentlemen,
us.
IT is basically the future, and that is what our government is working towards. I mean, we are looking for creating 18,000 new jobs in this specific industry. So, fingers crossed for that. If there's anything you need to ask us or write to us on our Facebook page with the name of Well This Morning, on Twitter, Well This Morning without a G, Daily Motion on YouTube, also Well This Morning. And if you missed this show, it's okay. You can catch the repeat at 11 p.m. tonight. Till the next time, good morning. Take care.